You are about to be directly affected by a massive event in the silver market. In decades, we have not witnessed anything like this. In this video, I'll describe it as we go along. Various forms of interference with the silver supply chain have been going on since around 2020. The changes from the previous decade to this one have been mind-boggling, and it doesn't appear like things will improve or become easier for a long time. The price of silver, particularly physical silver, has changed significantly as a result of these processes. Here is where you come in. Silver refiners are currently experiencing a great deal of activity and are amassing an enormous backlog. Two metals will be mentioned here, and I will be citing an article from numismaticnews.net. To start, I should mention that they deal in precious metals. Actually, I think more people should think about buying options instead of selling. Remember, before you invest in silver, make sure you have a solid grasp of the market and its ins and outs, drawing from sources such as this channel, others, and the market itself. I'll be discussing this in more detail later on with Summit Metals. Everyone, including me, has no idea what the daily volatility of silver prices will be, much less what they will be in 6 months. Therefore, base your purchasing decisions on your current degree of expertise. Despite the excellent customer service at Summit Metals, you shouldn't let anyone pressure you into purchasing precious metals. I highly recommend them since they are wonderful at solving any issues you may have and are very approachable. In addition, their shipping is quick. Based on this post by Patrick Heller, it's clear that silver is a solid investment. However, I believe that holding onto it is even better right now. An increasing number of Americans are selling their silver jewelry, flatware, hollowware, coins, ingots, and other objects, in light of this week's highest silver prices in 14 years. In order to be delivered and admitted into the COMEX vaults, many of these commodities are being sent to refineries to be melted down, purified, and cast into pure 1,000-ounce bars. Another dealer, about whom you may have heard me speak previously, was having problems with delivering back 55-gallon buckets of this material. Also, this is the most typical kind of silver that is returned to refineries, which is what you're seeing right now. However, the thought of melting down old silverware is repulsive to me. You know, we tend to brush things like jewelry and silverware off, but things like flatware and silverware made of sterling silver are still made occasionally. They used to be a big deal, and having such items was really necessary. Actually, I do not have any of those pieces in front of me, but I have purchased some of them. Many people have been returning them, and now 1 billion wholesaler has posted an apology message to customers. Refiners are experiencing backlogs due to the large amount of silver being sent to them. The outcome was a warning from the wholesaler that, compared to a few months ago, the turnaround time for results on melt and assay silver batches may be 1 week longer currently. Although this channel has issued a warning, the situation is just getting worse. However, there are other channels that can convey this message even more effectively. To rephrase, you shouldn't sell silver unless it's going to be melted. Summit Metals, the channel sponsor, is a part of that. The next segment of my program will serve as a gentle reminder that Summit Metals is a real buyer from you. Gold and silver can be sold to them. Their website has been updated to clearly display the prices they will pay for gold and silver. Do not do this until you are presented with a clear opportunity. To rephrase, if you're in a position to do so, paying off a large percentage of your mortgage is an excellent use of your funds, and you should do so if you feel the need to do so. For whatever rationale you may have, I think it's a good idea to have a core stack, that is, the bulk of your stack, that you can rely on. If there is a time to sell though, I totally get it. Also, be sure to give me credit if you do that. A lower price than what's shown on the website will be offered to you if you mention that Uncle Sal or Salivate Metal sent you. False accusations of receiving bribes have been leveled against me. My salary has not changed at all. They requested that I bring this to your attention, but I will not receive any additional compensation for doing so. It baffles me that some people assume the worst of me without gathering all the facts. Nevertheless, keep your silver for the most part. I believe that to be the primary point, although if you ever find yourself in the market to sell, it's wise to do some research before settling on Summit Metals as your vendor of choice. Here we have a situation where wholesalers are claiming a backlog has occurred, and it's not uncommon for refiners to have delays in processing silver. January 1980 was the height of the worst silver refining backlog. Things transpired as we expected, when we witnessed the first instance of silver's surge to nearly $50 per ounce. After accounting for inflation, that amounts to more than $216. Because of the high volume of silver being shipped to refineries, there was a 6-month product backlog. Yes, I understand, there's no way. Completely behind schedule by 6 months. And we're moving back in that way as well. We still have a ways to go before we hit that all-time high. Even when we compensate for inflation on behalf of silver. But it's becoming more apparent. Since it's being done by a lot of individuals, the amount of constitutional silver in the mix will be reduced, even if there is a lot of it available. It bothers me because I'd want to believe that this may be a form of silver that we could use for transactions again in the future. What we see here, though, is something that may be somewhat in danger. Now tell me how this relates to the silver price. The 1,000-ounce bars of silver already stored at the LBMA were the only ones that were worth the spot price on the commodity futures market. For those who are unaware, that is the London Bullion Market Association. This could be sent out in response to contracts that are due this month. Current maturing futures contracts have called for delivery of this product, but refiners have been unable to process additional 1,000-ounce bars for up to 6 months. As a result, COMEX futures contracts might trade at a discount of up to 25% to the spot price. Coins and bars that the public already owned were discounted to prices close to the spot price. Previously, there was a shop where clients could buy $1,000 bags with 90% silver coins and around 70% melt. As an alternative to waiting for the refiner to process and settle these coins, which could take up to 6 months, it was more advantageous to offer the commodity for immediate payment at a discount. Yes, I understand. You can find good discounts somewhere. Crucial is 90%. This is why silver like this is perfect for stacking at the moment. Invest in constitutional if you can. These possibilities won't last forever. Reason being, this is the current reaction of the market. Just the opposite is happening, but at an accelerated rate. The quote, silver squeeze movement began in 2021, but the term is now used in a very different context on the COMEX. This is due to the fact that industrial demand for silver has surpassed supply for the 5th year running. People were buying silver eagles and other silver products at a high rate at the time of the silver raids. Therefore, supplies were low. Thus, the silver spot price didn't rise significantly. It did so for a few days, but only little. Because of this, a number of silver objects went on sale for exorbitant premiums. It's not happening these days. Premiums for some products are still considered somewhat excessive, but constitutional and other forms of silver do not fall into this category. Certainly, we are in this situation, but it does make it more difficult to sell as you will receive significantly less money, particularly at small coin stores who are literally left with all this stuff and have to wait. I've noticed that certain stores are completely ignoring your silver. If silver isn't liquid, then piling it is pointless. That is an actual issue, everyone. Timing your sales is something I'd like to caution you about, for the simple reason that having constitutional silver on hand is useless if you're in a time of extreme necessity to sell, but they refuse to even consider it. That is why we need to be quick to adapt to the current state of the market. Having a few of these is something I've been advocating for quite some time, which, despite our animosity towards the dollar, are the most readily convertible. Plus, I am strongly opposed to their actions regarding the dollar. Additionally, the dollar as a symbol of the Federal Reserve note has changed since December 23, 1913, a significant date for apparent reasons regarding the passage of that statute. Although their value is declining, you hold onto them anyhow in case you ever need to sell them. This way, you won't feel rushed into selling something that might be difficult to sell in a market like the one we're in right now. It's not often that local coin merchants won't buy your constitutional silver, but lately it's been happening more frequently. Also, I'd like to bring up the point that Summit Metals might be melting down some of the materials they get. Since they are currently one of the most rapidly expanding dealers in the industry, I would venture to say no. They're selling it again and again. In any case, before you phone and offer to sell you 90% silver, be sure they won't melt it down. My only concern is that you won't ruin it. Additionally, if they intend to melt it down, it would be wise not to sell it to them. Locate alternative silver products to offer them. Whatever the case may be, it is something we haven't witnessed for a long time, and it is very concerning. I will discuss that shortly, and even more so here. We may observe that 70% of the money is going towards discounts. Instead of waiting for a significantly deeper discount, it was smart to sell to the general public. There have been periods in the past, as we have discussed, when physical silver was also exchanged at substantial premiums to the spot price. Upon its decline from approximately $18 per ounce in March 2008 to around $10 per ounce in November 2008, bullion-priced silver experienced a massive surge in demand. Just so you know, that's happening smack in the thick of the financial crisis. Fabricators sat on client orders for bars and rounds for up to 4 months after payment was received because available supplies couldn't meet demand. That increased the value of pre-existing 90% silver coins. There was a time when you might pay up to 35% more than spot pricing for a $1,000 bag of 90% silver coins that were ready to ship. Absolutely insane. As a result, those are quite unusual. Again, there was a premium on constitutional silver in those days, but that was a long time ago before 2022 and 21. This causes changes and adjustments in the market. Now we have to ride out these storms. Additionally, the COMEX silver market is experiencing a shortage of supplies. Consequently, the physical over-the-counter market for silver is trading at a price that is approximately 20 cents higher than the COMEX silver spot price. Those thinking about buying or selling actual silver at bullion price right now should use extreme caution when using the spot price as the basis for their transaction. Additionally, keep in mind that there is a growing trend of bullion dealers providing quotes that include both the spot and futures prices. Due to the ever-changing nature of the business, I don't think anybody is safe from it anymore. Keep in mind that we have witnessed the bigger difference between the futures price and the spot price shift all over the place. Also, we need to remember this, even if I have no idea what it is at the moment. However, there are only two prices that really count. Two different prices, one for buying silver and one for selling it. My middle finger is visible there as well. People believe they're being taken advantage of in some of those transactions, so I'm simply sharing it because it's the opposite side. Carry out your assignments as directed, whatever may happen. The decision to be sponsored by a bullion dealer or not is ultimately up to you, the buyer, regardless of what anybody tells you. For the silver market to thrive, you must exercise caution both when purchasing and selling the metal. And with that, I leave you. Please tell me your opinion on this new development. We will discover the ways in which we must overcome this formidable obstacle. Every time there are issues, we can use it to our advantage. There's always an opportunity for us to profit from those challenges. Purchasing constitutional silver seems like the best course of action to me. Or at least be content with what you have. Just by hanging on to what you have, you may make a lot of money with silver. Particularly at the moment, that is a very potent thing. In the space provided below, please share your opinions with me. I really hope this video was enlightening, useful, and entertaining for you. To all of you, I am eternally grateful for stopping by, and I implore you to do the following. Subscribe, like, share, and rate the video.